Welcome to Life Will Be. I'm your host, Lydia T. Blanco. Thank you for joining me and trusting me with your time. Today's topic of discussion is one that I have to still pinch myself about because I'm like, wow, I can talk about this. And this has really happened for me. And the reason why I decided I would talk about this after going back and forth on whether or not it was too intimate of a discussion or whether or not I should share to lend some inspiration to others, I decided, let's do it. You're probably like, what? What is it, Lydia? Okay, I'm going to tell you. I paid off 6 figures of student loan debt in real life, in US currency, in 2025, in this economy, climate, on earth. I did it. I did it. You may have student loan debt. You may not. You may know someone with student loan debt. If you know anything about it, it can be very crippling. I started my college journey in 2008 in Greensboro, North Carolina at Bennett College. Super excited about the opportunity to get away from San Francisco, my neighborhood. The block was definitely hot at that time. And I was bright-eyed and bushy-tailed when I arrived in Greensboro. And I knew that my college education would not be free. I had scholarships, and so much of my undergraduate experience was taken care of by those scholarships and grants, work study. But I still took out loans to live. I remember standing in the financial office and I was still unlearning. But somebody had gotten on my nerves, and I legit started to play Master P at the bottom half of the student union when they financial aid people were set up. And I was like, y'all, I need this money. Okay. I say that because 2008 was so long ago. And I remember this moment of going hard for myself and advocating. My mom had already left campus. It was a moment where I actually connected with someone else because I started to advocate for her, like, girl, come up here. Lo and behold, we became really good college friends at the time. And I took the money. I took the money so that I could fund this future that I believed in. I pursued journalism and media studies as my major, and I stuck with it. And I knew that I had to make this investment to make a difference in my life. Growing up, my father would always say, "You're going to college." He would tell this to me and my sister, and education was so important. And I knew that we did not have the US currency, a trust fund, savings, inheritance, and none of that to pay for it. And so who did I tap? Sally Mae. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I took out some money. And I'm grateful for that money that I was able to take out because without it, I truly wouldn't have been able to afford college. I didn't know a lot about a ton of scholarships. Winning scholarships in the 6 figure or $1 million range was not something that was popular in '08. Okay. This is pre Instagram and all the social media platforms people use now to communicate. There was a YouTube, definitely was listening to Soldier Boy on YouTube. Okay. Oh, we had a halftime routine in high school. Okay, Lydia, I digress. But there wasn't a lot of access to information. And I was the library girl. Okay. I was a library hottie. I got 90% of my resources from Ocean View Public Library on Randolph in Lakeview, California. Actually, San Francisco, California neighborhood is Lakeview, okay? But I was there. There wasn't an abundance of resources or support at the time, so I did what I thought was best and I took out the loans. As brilliant as I was, I did not have the best guidance counselors because I didn't go to the best schools, but there was an opportunity to take out student loans, and that's what I did. For college, I took out about, I want to say just a little over $20,000, which is incredible because that is below the national average for undergraduate student loan borrowing. But I didn't have the financial literacy, understanding, or community around me to help me better learn about the investment that I had made. So after graduating from Bennett College in 2012, I was in deferment and whatever program I could enroll in so that I would not have to pay, because $20,000 felt like so much money to me. So much. And I wasn't in a position to pay it back. After graduating from college, I landed freelance opportunities. I was hustling. I mean, if I seen a cameraman in front of a grocery store, I was running up on him and landing shadowing opportunities that way, cold calling people, all the things. And I wasn't paying. I wish I would have known that while I was in college, I could have been paying back some of the money that I owed, or at least the interest, right? And so I say all of this to give you some background. There was so much that I did not know when I signed my promissory note, but I wanted to make good on the promises that I made to myself. Okay. And I'm just going to fast forward a little bit because I want to get into tactics as well. I don't want this to be like a 20-hour story about Lydia being the only American with student loan debt. That's not true. I want to help you. And this is why I am recording this episode. In 2015, I decided that I needed to do something different with my life. And I actually made that decision in 2014. Things weren't moving along as fast as I imagined after acquiring a degree. And I felt like, oh my gosh, sorry, I'm over here rubbing my eye in real time. While I was making a lot of great connections in San Francisco, moving and shaking, I wasn't earning what I needed to be earning to be able to take care of myself the way I envisioned. And the opportunities that I was hopeful for weren't happening for me. And so I made the decision that I would apply to my dream program in graduate school, Columbia University's Graduate School of Journalism. I got in, I left to New York, and I took out more money. This time, I had taken out a lot of money. I want to say it was around $90,000, a little over $90,000. And that would cover me attending graduate school for a 9-month program and living. I had also taken out a personal loan from Wells Fargo so that I could actually pay for my apartment, and mapped out how much it would cost for me to live for a little over a year. And I wanted to make sure that I had cushion. Are you doing the math? Are you doing the math? Because I want to say that my studies have cost me over $150,000 with interest included. So let's get to the tactics, okay? Because, baby, I know some people have 200, 300, depending on what they pursued educationally, and it is not cheap. But one thing that I had to remember is I am worth the investment. Me wanting to change my life, me wanting to open up doors and experience newness in God's plan for me was worth the investment. And I hope that's something that you can take with you as you listen, as you repay, as you pray for loan forgiveness, as you work towards public service loan forgiveness, and all the things. You are worth the investment, regardless of what the numbers are. My journey to pay off my student loan debt has been long, okay? And it has been painful. I have felt crippled by my debt. I have felt defeated in all of the things, okay? I've cried, I've prayed, I've looked at the numbers, I've applied for this, I considered that. And now I'm at a point where I can take the deep breath. I've received the congratulatory emails from my loan service providers, and I'm like, it is real. What also has been real is the sacrifice, the mindset shift, and the maturity that has been required to be in this position. discipline, faith, so on and so forth. Okay. So I've paid off my student loan debt, and I want to encourage you to do the same. Some people are probably going to see this and roll their eyes. To you, I say, okay, do that if that's what best serves you. For those who are like, you know what, this is possible for me, this is something I'm working towards, it is time to look at the numbers. Yes, the numbers. Log into your service provider and look at the numbers, print them out, write them down. I definitely had to write them down because I could not just look at the screen. I don't own a printer, and I was like, I need to write it down. Writing it down makes it real, and writing it down made it real for me. I had my steno pad and I started to write it down, and then I accumulated the daily interest, and I realized that daily 70%, and I know this sounds astronomical and unreal. Believe me, I threw away the paper as I was like transitioning. 70% daily, right? Because it's the sum total of the interest for each loan daily that is accumulating. And I was like, oh my gosh, at this point, and this was earlier this month, late last month, so late May, early June, that I realized, okay, I still have $135,000 to pay. Earlier this year, I paid off my Columbia private or personal loan. That was like around $8,000. And I was like, okay, let's just pay this off because that'll make me feel better about my life. And last year, I paid off another private Columbia loan. And I want to say by the time I had paid it off, it was around like 4,000. I think it was originally around 11 or so. I had to write the numbers down, and writing it down definitely gave me this moment of pause where I was like, oh my gosh, I feel like I cannot breathe. And then I was like, let it breathe. And I was able to. And then I realized the sacrifice that I had made with my career. Whenever I was listening to different resources like books, podcasts, reading articles, and scrolling online looking for information about student loan repayment, I always heard people say, you have to earn more, you have to earn more. And I was like, well, how do I do that? Yes, apply for a job, so on and so forth. But I want to offer you something different. It is essential to know when it is time for you to pivot. I began my journey prior to 2008. I was writing poetry, participating in slams, submitting my work, and all these other things, aspiring to be this phenomenal journalist and writer and storyteller and all these things, right? And in 2008 became real. Took out the loans, went to college, was doing all the things. And I was like, I am a journalist. I am a cultural critic, and all these things I was professing over myself. And that is all I have ever known professionally, with the exception of like working in Hunters Point at a community center, checking people in and out of the computer room, and working at Cold Stones. Okay. I also sold stickers door to door and all the things, beef jerky for orchestra. Okay. I've been about my business and my money is what I'm trying to say, right? But in all seriousness, journalism and storytelling is all I have known professionally. The point I want to make is that you have to know when it is time for you to pivot. 5 years ago in June, I made a very difficult decision, and that was to leave the newsroom full time. The pandemic was happening. I wasn't completely satisfied. There were so many different financial elements of angst that I was experiencing. And I was like, something has to give. I was creating all these opportunities and partnerships professionally to help young people get into tech, and being from San Francisco, I had this desire to live that lifestyle, touring different campuses and meeting with people and seeing the leisure and hearing about their earning potential. I was like, I need to be a part of that. I began interviewing 2017, 18. And I want to say I applied for roles prior to graduate school, but it wasn't happening for me, right? And so I had to learn that it was critical, I would say, for me to pivot. And it was heartbreaking at first. I took a year to freelance after leaving the newsroom and got my column with Forbes. And I felt so proud of myself. And I was really trying to get clients and all these other things for my media consultancy. But it wasn't as lucrative and easy as I thought it would be, right? Still during a pandemic, but I knew I needed to pivot. So a year later, I ended up working for Twitter. Landing that opportunity through someone in my network, a friend, was life-changing for me. That was the first time I earned $70,000 annually. With all of my talents, connections, experience, 2021, my tax return was the first time I had earned $70,000. And I remember sharing this with my family and being so excited. And I was like, wow, that 70 turned into six figures, and it is a blessing, but I had to pivot. Everything that I knew was about me chasing the story and following the lead and uncovering and giving voice and all these things that I believe are still valuable and rich. And I hold dear to my heart, but I could not do that full time anymore. Journalistically, I love all of those things. And I feel like I love those things at my core, right? My mission is to build community through storytelling. That's what has led me to this iteration of the podcast, my endeavors with my column, and in my work in tech. I no longer work at Twitter. I am at another company, and I've been there for 3 years, and I've had to stick with it. I've had to grow. I've had to be challenged and learn and ebb and flow so that I can take care of myself. That is what has afforded me the opportunity to save. You know, I love Beyonce. I love Jay-Z. I especially love lyrics about money and scripture about money. Not because of my love for money. No, check yourself. But because words are powerful. What we say about money, what we think about it, how we feel about it, what we talk about conversationally really takes form. And I remember hearing Beyonce say, pay me in equity, watch me reverse out of debt. And I was like, wait, what? And so I remember negotiating an offer for where I work now in receiving this number for what I would get in like an award, a long-term incentive award in stock and equity in a company if I were to stay and hit 3 years. And I was like, wait, what? I was like, if I stay for 3 years, in 3 years, if I can pay X amount off, that would be incredible, right? Because number one, after all these years in 2021 is the first time I ever reached the 70,000 threshold. Now you're telling me I can pay more than half of that off if I just stay here for 3 years and pay me in equity, watch me reverse out of debt. Look, you may need to pivot into another industry. You may need to ask for equity or invest in stock and allow that to be one of the things that is a vehicle for you to pay off your stock. Pay off your student loan debt. Now let's talk about the pivot emotionally. Okay. It was hard. Part of my identity, truthfully speaking, has been one of a trusted, reliable, respected journalist and storyteller. And I was like, oh my gosh, what if I'm not known as that anymore or anything like that? Like, what is going to happen to me? My spirit felt a little crushed. I invested hundreds of thousands of dollars in pursuing my journalism career at the number one graduate school for journalism in the world and at my historically Black college, the first Black women's college. Okay, a little humble brag there. But I was like, that was all I knew. And I was like, oh my God, what is the world going to think of me? Who cares? Is the conclusion I had to draw. It does not matter. You feel me? Do you want to be known for something and go through that process of being known while being scorned and going without? Or would you rather pivot and take care of yourself and find ways to do what you love? I always say there's more than one way to get it. You know, another lyric that I leaned into after hearing Jay-Z say was financial freedom, my only hope. F living rich and dying broke. Talk about sacrifice. These, my friends, are press-ons. You can't see me, so for those who may not be able to, I have on these really vibrant green with gold dust powder, I'll say almond shaped nails by, they don't sponsor this show, okay, by a nail manufacturer. And they were like $7.99. $7.99. Okay. They look good. I receive compliments all the time, but there are trade-offs you have to make. F dying broke and living rich. My hair, I did it myself. Okay. My clothes, I wear them all the time. Jeans may have holes in between the thighs. Is that too much information? No. Wear your stuff. Shop your closet. You probably don't need to be at the nail salon, the hair salon, getting a barber shop cut. You may need to learn how to do your own fade. What is the point of living and looking like you got it when you're drowning in debt? Now, I'm not saying that you shouldn't live freely and that you don't deserve nice things, but I also believe that it is worth living simply while you are striving to live financially free. The other thing that I'd like to offer is that you change your mindset about money. Now, this is hard because money is very emotional. Depending on how you grew up, it is a very sensitive topic. I started this episode saying that I wrestled with the idea of even sharing because I'm like, oh my gosh. And it's not that I think that, oh, somebody's going to be counting my pockets, pocket watching, none of that. It's just that money is such a sensitive topic. But the word says that we should share, right? Our financial victories. Let me go ahead and get that scripture for you all, right? 1 Peter 4:10, NIV version. Each of you should use whatever gift you've received to serve others. And this is why I want to be of encouragement to those who are watching and listening. There are trade-offs that are very real. And I have been going without for a very long time. It doesn't always look like it, but I'm using what I have. And sometimes using what you have will create increase in your life because you are being creative. I remember having a conversation with someone while I was still in my journalism role full time. And I met with her, I think at 8 a.m. before I went upstairs. We were in this food court underneath the office. And she was like, Lydia, money is energy. And I could not understand what she was saying. I was like, what? She was like, no, money is energy. You need to tell your money what to do. And she had all these affirmations. And I heard her and I never forgot it. But it wasn't until my mindset began to shift that I can understand and feel and believe that for myself. There are so many affirmations that I listen to from various artists and in prayer. And then there are things that I believe are downloaded to me from Holy Spirit where it becomes an affirmation. You know, I am wealthy. You know, Money Serves Me. There's some song that I thought was so silly at first that my sister shared with me. I can't even remember the name of the artist, but it was like, money is coming to me easily and effortlessly. Money is coming to me. I got money. And I was like, what the heck? And then I would call her and start randomly singing this song, and we would like chuckle over it. But I was like, no, this is real. This energetic pull. Also, just speaking into the world and letting, myself know I'm taken care of. I make good decisions. I am strategic. You know, I know what trade-offs. I trust myself with money. I don't do I don't shop impulsively. All these things, you have to make it real for yourself, but it's so important. Read. One of the books that I often talk about is Think and Grow Rich, A Black Choice by Dennis Kimbrough. Reading and listening to that book really helps me think differently about life and business and sacrifice and stick with itness and the mindset that you need in order to live a rich life. Listening to people talk about money, from podcasters to very high profile financial experts. Sometimes I just turn on YouTube and I'll hear someone I'll listen to someone speaking about money and mindset, morning routines. All those things will help to enrichen your experience when you are really building the muscle that you need and the mindset that is required for you to tackle your debt. Okay, I've said quite a bit. Write down the numbers, change your mindset, get some money affirmations, right? Now, here is the thing. In addition to earning more, you have to create systems for your financial well-being. That means saving, investing, and telling your money where to go. I created a discipline in the habit of saving money. I decided I was going to live tight and I was going to thug out where I was living at the time for as long as I needed to. When I began to earn more and stay put, both at my job, especially when times were trying, and in my space when times were trying. Y'all, it's real. Okay. And I'm having to take a moment because I'm like, wait, what? I began to gamify my saving, my spending, and investing once my mindset and my relationship with money began to change. I began to tell my money where to go. Part of that meant opening up a high yield savings account. I randomly met someone at the Brooklyn Museum and they were telling me that they worked at Goldman Sachs and they were responsible for creating and leading the project for Marcus, their high yield savings account financial institution, I'll call it. And I was like, wait, okay, shout out to this person. They're dope. And so I was like, wait, Marcus, I began to put my money into a Marcus account at the time because of everything happening in the world. The interest rate or the APR was 4.5, which was extremely high, right? And it really spoke to what was going on economically in the climate. And so I was like, okay. And I remember people telling me, get a high yield savings account, pay for everything on your credit card and pay it off as soon as blah, don't carry a balance. And I'm like, all these things meant nothing to me because I had no money to do it with. Okay. And so as soon as I crossed over to the other side, mentally, physically, spiritually, financially, and emotionally, all around money, okay, I began to put these practices into play. So I opened up an account with Marcus, and I want to say that I originally put like $100 in the account. There was no minimum. Then I began to transfer money every time I would get some. If I was freelancing and wrote an article and got $600 for the article, I put that money in a high yield savings account. And I would see the interest paid every month. And I'm like, whoa, this is way more beneficial than just having my money sit in Bank of America. How can I, make my money work for me? So I encourage you, look into a high yield savings account, begin to save your money. There are features to automate from your checking to that savings account. If you can do that, pick an increment that works well for you and gamify it. Have fun with it. Like, okay, you know what? Instead of getting my nails done, I'm going to put that $40 to $150 that some people are really paying in US currency for their nails. That's their business. But put that into the account. Oh, I was going to go on this boutique's website. I thought about getting this cut. I was going to go here. I'm going to put that in my account, see how much interest I get. It definitely makes a difference. Even $5. I would take like $40 out of the savings account that accumulated from Keep the Change, and I would transfer it and make sure that it went into this account because I'm like, what the freak, right? And I started to have fun with it. I also was encouraged to invest in stock. Okay, I am a newbie. I have been paid in equity, but I was not actively investing in my own stock portfolio. And that became like a game for me. I have acquaintances who are known for their financial expertise and guidance and stock and X, Y, and Z. And I was just like, you know what? I'm not there yet. But I was like, ooh, there was an opportunity with Charles Schwab to receive $100 in stock if you began to invest. And there were other offers like this before from like L Invest where they'd give you $50 and all this other stuff. And I remember not doing anything with it. And I was like, okay, well, this time, Lydia, you have to do something. And so I was like, I want this $100 and I want to see if this is really going to work. So I put in Christmas money and I got the $100. And so my 300 turned into like 400 with the $100 from Charles Schwab. And they split the stocks between Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, and one other major tech company. I can't remember. And it was like $20 each way. So I received a fraction of those shares, I guess fractional shares. But I was like, look at me investing. And so sent the link to my mama and them, my friends. And I'm like, okay, have you heard of this? Is this something you're interested in? It is so important to share your wealth strategies as well. Okay. I think that's a part of the healing journey. It is so taboo within the Black and Latin community to talk about money. I always admire when I see people having these conversations in the house at the table or freely over coffee. And I'm just like, we need to be doing more of that. And so I've been doing that, not because, oh, I'm rich and I got it all figured out, but no, it's worth sharing. You can't be the only one winning. Jay-Z also said, if everyone around you is broke, like, so are you. I'm paraphrasing. Like, basically, it ain't worth being the only one winning. Okay. Have these conversations with people who you love, who you trust, who are open and interested and willing to learn. Okay. If you are initiating these conversations and people are like, okay, let them be. If they're not really pressed or their attitude is, I ain't never gonna pay and it's all good, like they gonna have to come for me, I'm just gonna die. Well, let them not die, but hey, if they want to live like that, let them. Okay. I've written down some scripture and look, this one right here is real. I've had moments where I've cried over my student loan amount and I have wept and I'm like, what do I need to do? I don't have the upper body strength to like become a stripper, and I've been told I aged out, and that's not my thing. I felt like I could work the door and give out affirmations and make a lot of money, but I was like, Lydia, do you really want to do that? No, I wasn't gonna do that, y'all. Okay. But what I did, I began to live below my means, right? Lifestyle creep is a real thing. I moved from where I was for 9 years, and I am transitioning from this space as well. And I knew that lifestyle creep was going to be a real thing for me, lifestyle inflation, right? And so I said, I'm gonna have 1 year. And I know because I'm not going to be below market, my rent is going to increase and double this, that, and the third. But I still found ways to live below my means, doing my own hair, driving, being mindful of all these things, just really trying to figure it out, right? So here's a scripture for you as you think about living below your means. And it's Hebrews 13:5. Keep your lives free from the love of money and be content with what you have. Use what you have. If you can avoid it, stay away from lifestyle creep. If you pay off the credit card, maybe you don't need to go get a brand new car. If you are only paying for things on your debit card, maybe get a credit card that is within your range and live off of that one credit card the same way you would your debit card and pay it off so that you can increase your credit score, and you're tracking your spending that way across one card. That's like a twofer, right? But I talked about crying and praying and trying to figure out if I need to work on my upper body strength, but truly keeping God at the core of my finances is something that keeps me. You can have so much money today, and tomorrow, zip zero, stingy with De Niro might buy you Chris. Okay, I got to get out of my Jay-Z bag, okay? But seek God's guidance and stay encouraged. Here's another scripture for you. But seek first the kingdom, his righteousness, and all things will be given to you as well. Matthew 6:33. Matthew really has been getting me through when I think about the Beatitudes and chapter 5 and just remembering who God says I am. One thing that has really stuck with me and resonated since paying off the 6-figure amount of debt is getting back to who I believe and know myself to be true. I was in conversation with my therapist and I was like, you know what? I'm going to do it. I'm going to pull the trigger. I'm going to start over financially. I'm going to sell some stock and pull from this account and transfer this and do all these things. And yes, I want the house, and yeah, I want to move and all these things, but I want to be financially free more. And I began to think about who I was before the student loan debt, the lightheartedness, the freedom, the spirit that I had, and the excitement as I was getting ready to set out on life's adventure. And I was like, I want to get back to her. I want to know more of her. I wonder who she would have become had she had certain resources and support and knowledge. That is not to discredit any part of who I am in the journey to become and where I am today. So many of us, though, I believe, can remember versions of ourselves before the interruption. And I wrote it down. It happened. And now I'm committed to living my life for her, for Lydia T, Blanco. Like, I am getting back to me. Now, I didn't grow up with a lot of money. No money. And that's fine, right? I'm here. But I remember just these flashes of how I showed up in the world while I was getting it. I sold stickers door to door, beef jerky. I swept streets, recycled cans. When I found money, I would share what I had. We would have picnics from the corner deli and the $4 sodas. Do you remember when sodas were $4 and bags of chips were $4? I mean, don't let me find $5. I remembered how good I was with money, how savvy, strategic, and how I knew how to get it so early. And so I'm excited that I'm getting back to her, right? Because now I'm like, what if we bought this and we invested in that? And that is what financial freedom will do for you. God is so faithful. I believe that if this has happened for me, that this can happen for you. I'm believing for financial freedom for my sister, my mother, my friends, family members who have invested in different programs and have taken out personal loans, right? Because we have believed that borrowing would get us to the place where we were destined to be. But along that journey, there is so much battle and bruising and discouragement and like spurts of different energies we can't even put a name to that happen. But when you make up your mind and you decide that you are going to get serious about taking on an attitude of pride to pay back what you invested in, it'll happen. It happened for me. I remembered that pivoting was important. I began to make trade-offs. I lived below my means. I found ways to have healthier relationships with money. And it's not easy. I really hope that what I am sharing is helpful. Whatever I had, I began to throw, because I feel like when you have money and you owe somebody, you really don't have it, right? And what I'm looking forward to in this next chapter of my life financially is to be a lender, right? In the form of encouragement and information and the financial resources when I have it, to partner with people. I'm no financial coach. I told you I ain't finna come one either, okay? But partner with people to help them devise a plan, how they best see me fit as doing that with them, right? And people who are very close to me, okay? Because money is very private and sensitive and all the things. And I'm looking forward to borrowing more money. That may sound crazy, but I'm serious. Hello, somebody. One of the things that really put things into perspective for me was looking at really wealthy people's habits and how they have a lot of debt. I'm like, why y'all got so much debt? And why are y'all so proud about the amount of debt you have? And I realized it's like this attitude of gratitude. They have borrowing power and they exercise that power and they invest. They make smart decisions and partnerships. They're buying land and properties, and it's a flex. They're like, oh, yeah, I have about $2 million in debt. Now, that's not the goal. I don't want to owe nobody. I really don't want to owe nobody. I'm excited. I'm doubling my words. I really don't want to owe anyone any money for a very long period of time, but I do want to exercise my borrowing power, right? Like I aspire to be the lender and not the borrower, but sometimes, come on. And so I'm looking forward to taking out the home loan. Hello, somebody. I mean, if anyone from the government is listening to this podcast and y'all listen to everything, could y'all really just trade the student loan debt for a home debt? You know how many people who would literally be more encouraged and inspired to trade their student loan debt for a mortgage because they actually would get something they feel is more tangible than their education. Not to say that it's not worth it, but it could be a nice trade-off and incentive. Okay, right. But I want a home. I want a home mortgage. I would really like a nice truck and some other stuff, like that is the goal. I want to be able to have enough to share. And right now, what I have to share is this information, the scriptures, these lyrics, and my enthusiasm. I really hope that I shared some tactics, right? You heard the numbers, 6 figures, over $150,000. I'm just going to break it down one more time for people who may be like, okay, maybe she didn't, or I missed it, or you're just now tuning in. I paid off a lump sum of my student loan debt this June. I sold stock. I emptied my savings and my checking, and I decided I was going to start over financially. God is faithful. I couldn't believe how much money I saved, and I stuck out being where I am, professionally, so that I could meet my goals and partner with therapists and coaches, my family, God, first and foremost, in prayer, so that I could really devise a plan to live how I need to live to achieve the goal. I honestly can tell you that I didn't think that I would be able to make up my mind and schedule the payments the way that I did. 3,000, 35, 60. I was like, where's all this money coming from? But it came from discipline, hard work, timing, sacrifice, God, and faithfulness. Everybody got choices, in the words of E40. And I made up my mind that I wanted to be financially free. I believe that when we get to a point where we're like, something has to give, and many of us are there daily, that we will begin to fast and pray and get serious and find ways to cut the fat, make up our minds, and focus on what it is that we need to do. You may not have 6 figures worth of debt. You may, right? But think about who you can partner with, who you can trust with your numbers, and what you can cut, how you can use what you have, and how you can change the way you think about money and what you owe so that you can get to where you need to be. I said that I didn't want to make this an hour-long episode, but I wanted to share what I had. There's so much more that I could talk about, especially as it relates to like the emotional and spiritual part of this, but I don't want to belabor. Trust God's timing, trust yourself, and respect where you are. Let this be a word of encouragement. If you have serious questions, or if there's something you may feel like, she kind of like breezed over that a little bit and I want to know more, please reach out to me. I said one more again, I am not a financial expert. I did not have a financial coach throughout this process. I was literally trusting and believing and praying and doing all the things that I shared. And so reach out to me. Let's work Lydia at gmail.com is how you can find me. You can connect with me there or on social media, right? Life will be pod on Instagram or at Lydia T Blanco. Be well. Life will be. Find ways to be well and to be free. Until the next time, y'all. Peace.